Okay, first topic in additional maths is called differentiation, okay? Now that is a posh way of describing the gradient of a graph. So when we have the gradient of a graph, we look at the difference in x over difference in y, and that really is what dy by dx actually stands for. So it's difference in y over difference in x. But it's an algebraic way of looking at the gradient of a graph. So if they give us this graph, the general rule is we reduce the power by 1. Okay, so that's all we are thinking about doing. So we would say dy by dx, and we're thinking 8x to the power of 3. And that power that we are using comes down in front. So that 4 will come in front of that 8. The next one, that's like an invisible 1. So I would have 3 times 1, and it becomes x to the power of 0, because I'm reducing that power by 1. Now that number, that coefficient, or whatever you want to describe it as, actually doesn't have a power, so it goes to 0. Okay, so I don't have any number that I need to write on the end. Now if I'm to simplify that a little bit, 4 times 8 is going to give me 32x cubed, plus, now be careful here, 3 times 1 is 3, x to the power of 0. Now anything to the power 0 is actually 1. And you will have done that within maths lessons. So that would be 3 times 1, which is just 3 on its own. Next question. So we're reducing the power by 1. So we're going to bring that minus 4 down in front first of all. And then we're reducing the power by 1. So think about your number line. You're on minus 4 and I'm taking away 1. So I'm going to end up on minus 5. And that is my answer. I don't have anything to multiply in front of there, so that negative 4 just stays the same. Okay? With fractions then, exactly the same principle. So dy by dx, you bring in that 3 over 4, that 3/4 out in front. You can write it as a decimal if you'd prefer. X to the power of, so you're thinking of 3 over 4 and you're taking away 1 whole from it, okay? Now the best way to think about that is 3 over 4 is taking 4 over 4, okay? So if you have to do this without a calculator, you are allowed a calculator by the way, but just to show you, 1 whole, 4 divided by 4 gives you that 1 whole. 3 take away 4 is going to give you that negative quarter. So you are going to end up with a negative fraction, okay? So your answer is going to be 3 over 4, x to the power of minus 1 over 4. Now, like I said, if you want to write it as decimals, you can. However, within A-level maths, you will find in college or sixth form, they actually prefer fractions. So I would prefer you to stick to fractions. But if you really don't want to use fractions, you are allowed to use decimals, but try and steer away from it as much as possible, okay? Next one then. If we go further down, so again, we've got a large expression, so dy by dx, we're doing exactly the same principle. So 8 is already there. We're bringing that 7 down in front, because that is the power. X to the power of 6, I'm reducing that power by 1. Next one, the 2 is already there. Now there's like an invisible 1. Okay, so 2 times 1 is just going to stay as 2, and it would be x to the power of 0. 1 take away 1 is going to give me 0. And that number on its own actually doesn't have any letters we can reduce the power to, so it actually goes to 0. So any numbers on their own I don't have to write. Let's simplify this a little bit. 8 times 7 is going to give me 56, and it'll be x to the power of 6, and it will end up as plus 2 on the end. Remembering, anything to the power 0 goes to 1, and obviously 2 times 1 is just going to give me that 2 on the end. Negatives then, dy by dx. Bring your minus 8 out in front and reduce your power by 1. So you're on minus 8 and you're going down 1 on your number line. That does give you minus 9. And the last one right at the very bottom is again with fractions. So you're doing exactly the same principle, bringing out your power down in front, and then you're taking away 1. So you're doing 3 over 2, take away 1, okay? Now if you think about what that actually means, 3 over 2, so half of 3 is going to give you 1.5, isn't it, if you're going to write it as decimals? So £1.50. Taking away £1 from it, 1 whole, that does leave you with a half. So you'd have 3 over 2, x to the power of a half. You are allowed to use a calculator for that section if you're not confident doing it without a calculator.